Hi, I'm Bill Murphy. I'm your host. Thanks for joining us for Technical Talks, our monthly webinar. And it's an opportunity for all of us to get an education. I learn something every time we do it. And I hope that you guys will use the Q&A. And if you don't have a chance to ask a question during the webinar today, you will have a chance to do it in writing. If you're new with us, I will say every attendee gets 1 hour, one professional development hour of continuing education credit. We will send out that certificate. At the conclusion of this webinar, our marketing team will grab the video, process it, put it on our YouTube channel. They'll also send an email out to every one of you who registered, and they'll ask you to confirm your name and for your PDH certificate. There will be an opportunity on there to ask another question if you didn't get to ask it during the Q&A, and there will be an opportunity to tell us about a project you'd like help on. There's never any obligation to use any of these solutions when you tell us about a project. It's just an opportunity for us to jump on early and to help you and give you an idea of what could be possible. Sometimes that first project that you tell us about isn't the right one that fits for some of these solutions you're going to learn about today, but the next one might be. So it's all worth it. I'm going to have 7 opening slides like I usually do, and then I'll introduce our guest speaker. We already tested our audio and video, so with that, I'm going to get rolling for the sake of time. Thanks for joining us, friends. I see a lot of people on here, but I also see, compared to our registration number, not as many because the weather's been so darn nice. Where I'm at in Iowa, I saw the forecast says by Friday it's supposed to get up to 90. Same with Kansas, where our guest speaker is, and across the Midwest and in our west of the Rocky Mountains and our Pacific Northwest locations, they're going to get down in the low 40s and have rain this week. So we get all the weather all at once within our companies. Speaking of our companies, see if I can get this to roll. See if I got it. Yep, second slide. Hale Holdings, family of companies. We're still the largest privately owned construction supply distributor in the U.S. Many of our peers have been bought out by the bigger companies. We're still friends with all of those, even in areas where you might think we're competitors. We might be, but we also still do business together with each other, all to help the customer. That's our biggest goal. We have well over 12,000 customers. This is an old slide. We do have many technical sales professionals, inside and outside sales, and we're blessed with a lot of wonderful warehouse folks and drivers. And we have one engineer, and we ride him like a rented mule. That's me. And we've got offices across 12 states, but we work in adjacent states to these sometimes as needed to help get material where it needs to go. But we also have friends in the industry in those grayed out areas that we can still help you. So some of you on this presentation may not be in one of those states on this map, and that's okay. We're still friends. You can still reach out to us. And my friend who's going to join us here as our guest speaker, he covers the entire country, and he has people who do the same. So no matter where you're at, no matter the weather, we can still help you. For those of you who are familiar with this, this is all redundant. For those of you who are new to us, you may know us from our erosion control and sediment control or vegetation solutions. We're much more than that. We get involved in a variety of projects, and we're blessed with some wonderful locations. I get to visit all of them, where we have people who are experts at making things fit inside, outside, and strategically and surgically delivering what you need when you need it. And this really matters on some of those big city jobs or some of those tight space jobs where they can't take semi loads of the same product over and over again to offload it. They need exactly what they need the day they need it. And we have people who are very good at that. I'm blessed to not be part of that. We have people who they are experts at logistics. So let us help you. Again, I'm going to chime in a few times after I introduce my friend Craig, but as he goes through his presentation, just to keep it interesting, and because I have ADHD and see shiny things and I can't stay quiet, we will both chime in. We would like to turn our cameras off because we're humble people, but we're going to keep them on so it feels like we're in the room together. And with that, I want to introduce Craig with his newer picture, a slimmer, younger version of him now, getting younger with age. Craig Shultz from American Excelsior. I've known Craig for years. He covers a large area for them. He and I both are blessed to get to go to national conferences. I asked for his bio, and it's vast and has an interesting variety to it. So I'll let him share whatever part of it he wants to. So Craig, what do you want them to know about you as you get started?
Well, I'm not getting younger. I am slightly thinner than the last picture, which I'll take.
Good job.
Yeah, you too. We're trying, right, to hang around as long as we
Yep.
can. So I want to apologize on the front side. I'm fighting a little bit of the Kansas allergies, as Bill mentioned. The weather came up, and I spent all last weekend outside doing yard work, and the the pollen has come back to attack me. So I'm a little, little clearing my throat. So I'll try not to do that very much. Again, my name is Craig Shultz. I'm the business development manager at American Excelsior. I joke that that's my title because they didn't know what to call me. I think Bill's in a similar role. we don't, titles don't mean much. My background is I've worked in the hydraulic industry with hydraulic mulches for many, many years, alternative daily landfill covers, various rolled erosion control products, both temporary and TRMs and other more permanent devices, sediment control devices. I'm pretty active in ASTM, so I represent our company at ASTM, which is used to be this American Society of Testing Materials. Now it's just ASTM because it's global. And that's the entity that helps write standards, how a lot of these materials are tested. And I attend those meetings a couple times a year at least. Myself and our company are also very active in the Erosion Control Technology Council, ECTC, which is a group of really great manufacturers from all over the world that help, basically the rising tide lifts all boats to help better the industry. And we're really, really active in that organization and others. So I enjoy putting on these presentations. I'm a pretty communicative guy. I like looking people in the face, and I talk at a lot of regional events. And, my goal today is to touch on a fairly wide variety of the types of products that we offer through Bill's great company. And we won't hit all of them, and I'll probably try to say this a couple of times. Please reach out if you've got questions or something I didn't cover. Bill's team is terrific. Our website's vast, but I'll jump in, give you a little bit of background, a little bit of history, talk about kind of how we go about things. At the end of the day, it's to kind of wet your whistle, right? We're wanting you to try all the different flavors here and see what jumps out. I know Bill and his team are wonderful at this. Our team is also available to go into more depth with your team individually or in groups, more specifically about certain topics. So please don't hesitate to ask. Okay, with that, we'll go to the next slide. Okay, we can see that. There is no history lesson after this. My librarian wife would be upset that there's not a quiz about history, but just a little bit about us. We've been around for over 135 years. We actually started in 1888. I think it's important that you know that. We're a privately held company. We've been around a long time. Excelsior has been used in lots of products over the years before it was used in erosion control. Packaging. My favorite story about that is if you've seen the movie The Christmas Story and the dad gets the leg lamp and it's fragile because it must be Italian. First of all, we can be friends. Second of all, that stuff the dad is pulling out of the crate around the leg lamp is Excelsior. Before plastics, Excelsior was a great packaging material. That's what it was used for. And there were Excelsior manufacturers all over the world. Yeah, and so that's what it was. But there was also used in evaporative cooler pads, animal pads, animal bedding, all kinds of things that have been used and still used in those products today. Well, in the 1960s, someone at our company realized they're like, hey, we have some erosion problems out back. I wonder if we weighed down some of those pads we make. I wonder how that would help with vegetation and erosion. And interestingly enough, that became the first erosion control blanket with Curlex 1. So we invented the erosion control blanket in the 1960s with Curlex 1. The products, as they do, right, they evolved over the years. In the 80s, we came out with Curlex 2, which was the first double net erosion control blanket. Curlex 3, which is also a double net blanket, but a heavier duty blanket, more mass, more fibers in it. In the 1990s, we developed ErosionWorks, which we'll touch on today, which is our free design software. We came up with our sediment log, sediment retention product, or sediment products, control products, our QuickGrass, which is a green pigmented material, a blanket that we can produce. And we built the ErosionLab, which is the facility that I run. In the 2000s, we introduced our Recyclex turf reinforcement mats. We'll talk about those fibers today. It's a synthetic turf reinforcement mat. We came out with Curlex Net Free, which was the first netless erosion control blanket and one of only a few on the market today. We came up with the E-Staple. We came up with Curlex blocks. We'll talk about all these in more depth. In 2018, introduced some more turf reinforcement mats. And in 2020, most recent introduction or new product was our high-vis logs. That's my office. Luckily enough to call my office. Though I live in Lawrence, Kansas, near Kansas City, that facility is in Rice Lake, Wisconsin. The ErosionLab is, to my knowledge, the largest testing lab of its type in North America and perhaps the world. At the lab, we do lots of different things, lots of testing, lots of training. We have facilities there that can do ASTM testing. I mentioned at the beginning ASTM testing, and ASTM is a big deal, right? Because without large scale, especially large scale testing, it's very hard to compare products. And even with large scale results and index, which are smaller scale, bench scale results, it's not perfect, but we're trying to get there as an industry to give you, the designers and the users, at least as much information as we can. Now, that doesn't replace real world, right? There's some other real world things, but some of the tests you may have heard of that we do there are D6459, which is rainfall, and D6460, which is channel, and we do all kinds of different things. As the little cartoon says, we prefer to think of it as added value. We want to be a resource for you, your teams, our distributors, so please don't hesitate to reach out to us if we can be of assistance. I just always put a couple of these pictures in there so you can understand kind of the size and scope of some of the testing. At the lab, on the left, that is D6460, or that's the full-size version of that. Those are 80-foot long trapezoidal channels, and we can generate up to 80 cubic feet of water per second down those channels. It's a hugely powerful tool. D6460 in the lab world is just a vertical version of that. They have a plywood channel, but it was developed from these sorts of channels, and we're proud that we were part of that many, many years ago. What that tells you as a designer or an engineer is shear stress. It gives you the shear stress capability of a product. That may be a temporary erosion control product, or it may be a turf reinforcement mat. I think it's really important that you know what shear stress means, because most people, if they don't know, they assume it has to do with when something breaks. It actually doesn't have to do with that. What it has to do with is when the test bed, and there's obviously a test bed, an area they measure, loses a ½ inch of soil on average over that area. The concept behind that early on, many years ago, was if you lose that ½ inch, you're probably losing a significant amount of the seed bed. That was where that kind of came from. Does it mean the channel completely failed? It does not. Does it mean the material broke? It does not. It actually is not tied to tensils. Tensile is not correlated to shear stress. Shear stress is about soil loss. With temporary erosion control products, you'll get those numbers in an unvegetated form. What can that product do to protect the seed bed in an unvegetated form? With turf reinforcement mats, as the name implies, you're going to get that value in an unvegetated and a vegetated condition, because obviously they're designed to work with turf, and that's why we can get such high shear stress capabilities out of turf reinforcement mats. So that's a little tidbit that you may not have known. On the right, you'll see D6459. Oh, and on those channels, just so you know, we've got a dozen of those channels where we can run different tests, and some of them have permanent installations and some of them are bare soil. On the right, you'll see D6459, and we have about a dozen of those slopes. Those are 40 feet long, 8 foot wide at a 3-to-1 gradient. And what you do in 6459 is you measure the C factor or the cover factor. And we rain on that plot at 2 inches an hour, 4 inches an hour, and 6 inches an hour for 20-minute segments, right? And we measure every single drop of sediment that comes off of that slope. It's a very difficult test. We actually have to run it on bare soil, and we compare how much soil you lose in a bare condition versus how much you lose with a product over the top, and that gives you your C factor. So as an example, if you had a C factor of 0.1, that means it did 90% better than its bare soil counterpart. Bare soil test. So it just gives you an idea. And again, these aren't, nothing's perfect, but it's the best we can do right now. We actually have to measure the raindrop size. We have to measure, they have to fall from a certain height minimum. We have to collect that data that they've fallen evenly on the plot. I tell you all this to say we've got a lot of knowledge and a lot of history that we work really hard to help give good recommendations about how products perform. So thanks for listening. So also wanted to, we won't go into this, but we've had visitors from all over the country. I think this up all the world. I think we're up to 35 now. What I like about this map is simply this: no matter where you're from, no matter what your background is, socioeconomic, political, most people on this map, well, all the people on this map are coming to do something better for the environment, better for water, better for their people, better for all of it, right? And it's really interesting when you talk to people from all over the world, because really the goal is the same. The environments can be very different, both just the world they live in, how arid they are or what they are, and politically, but they are all trying to do the same thing. And I think that's an important thing to know. I don't go into all of this today because we would have a 5 hour call and Bill would fall asleep. And no, I'm just kidding. Bill would not fall asleep. But we have a great technical support library on our website. I really encourage you to jump out there and look for it. Please don't recreate something. If you're looking for a spec, a CAD detail, a description, an installation, any of that stuff, a cross reference, I promise you we've probably created it. Call us if you can't find it. We will help you find it. And we also have a great YouTube channel. You'll see a few videos in here today talking about, some things that you might find interesting, how things work, some projects and things like that. And then last, we have the ErosionWorks software that you can sign up for. Just another example, or equal letters. If you ever got a project and you hear a name of a product and you're wanting to use something that we have, we can tell you what would be appropriate as a match, right? Scientifically data driven to give you what you need. Let us know, and we can provide you, that kind of information. I don't go into ErosionWorks today because of time, but this is our opening screen, and I just like to show it to you. What you have on here is a wide variety of tools. It's very easy to use. You don't need a whole lot of data. You can even do it from your phone. Basically, you have a material estimator. So, if you'll talking to a contractor, distributor, they might be able to give you some ballpark costs of how much something costs per square foot installed or otherwise. And you can enter slope calculations or channel calculations, how steep, how wide, all those things. And it will give you data back out that says, hey, based on what you wanted, an all-natural product or a turf reinforcement mat or something to last a certain number of months, this is what we recommend in a good, better, best situation. You can save a report, gives you great data to use. And again, not hard to use, but I'm more than happy to have a personal webinar with you to show you how to use it. A nice tool, to help you find those things. And also it gives you a DOT approval. So if a product's listed with a DOT, and always check with us to make sure that's updated, but it is a nice tool for you. Just a couple more examples, slope application guides. This is just some of the quick things people have asked us to do. I'm working on a certain kind of slope. I need something to last a certain amount of time. What should I be looking at? Do I need a turf reinforcement mat? Do I need an Excelsior product? What do I need? And similarly, this chart talks about channels, right? Everything in the tannish gray are temporary blankets. So these are things that we're going to give an unvegetated shear stress to. And they're going to last about this long. They're going to take about this much force. And then everything in the bluish purple above are turf reinforcement mats. Those are vegetated conditions. That's types of forces that they can withstand. So it just gives you an idea.
I think these are fantastic tools. The one before it and this one both, they're just so helpful to have a graphic representation real quick instead of reading through all the documentation for each one. But thank you for sharing these.
Sure. And like I say, all these are out there and just little things here and there, to help you along the way. I want to make sure that I don't miss anything here. Click there. So if you're on this call, I bet you know this already, but I don't like to not say it. We talk about erosion control, we talk about sediment control. And obviously erosion control is what we're doing to keep the soil in place in the first place, right? That's what we're trying to do. We don't want it to go anywhere. And usually in our world, that tends to be because of water. It can be wind and stuff, of course, too, but water is primarily our concern. Sediment control, on the other hand, is when that sediment is broken away from where it was. We're trying to stop it from leaving the site, entering an inlet, whatever it is. That's what we're trying to do. And as much erosion control, obviously, as we can do, the less we have the need for sediment control. But in the real world, we all know that there are times on projects where there is land disturbance. And the opportunity to do erosion control is very minimal, right? It just doesn't exist. We have to do sediment control in certain conditions. So it's a balance, right? We're trying to do the right things. Oops, I didn't click right, sorry. I'm not going to read this, but if you Google our new normal, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of facts like this that talk about what we now and you on this call have to design to build to, deal with in your world. Companies like Bill's, their job is to help provide you all those different best management practices and those solutions for the events that are possible, right? If it fails, is it just inconvenient? Maybe. If it fails, is there concern about loss of life or danger? Well, that's a different deal, right? And are we designing for a 10-year event or a 100-year event? What we see on average, and I'm sure Bill's team probably does too, the calls we get over the last few years are more erring on the side of caution than they are on the side of, well, I don't think it'll be a problem. The 100-year events get brought up way more than they used to be at the beginning of my career. And so we know that because of things like this, those concerns are going into, protecting our environment and protecting our people. Nobody likes this. You never have a red dollar sign. That's a good thing in any report. Um, this was just a stat I pulled. It was, so I've had a couple of people say, well, it's only $5 million in the scheme of 5 years. That's not a lot. I think $5 million is a lot of money. What this doesn't show is all the shutdowns, right? It doesn't show all the cleanup costs. It doesn't show all the penalties, all those other things that weren't fined by the EPA. And as you all probably know, that can be significant. We want to do these things because it's the right thing to do. But we also don't want to cost ourselves or our clients more money. So that's, it's important to note. And I don't think it's probably something I have to push to this group. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit just about products. Just to give you some ideas of differentiators and things out there on the market. We have a line of turf reinforcement mats. We have 3 different types that use the Recyclex products. If you have the need for a turf reinforcement mat that is fully synthetic, I like to point out some differences. A lot of turf reinforcement mats on the market today have a specific gravity of less than 1. And the short version of this is if it's less than 1, it floats. If it's more than 1, it sinks. We would like you to consider that the Recyclex type products that are out there don't float, and they have some nice characteristics, some recycled content, and some other things that we think make sense. Usually the next question I get about turf reinforcement mats has to do with plastics, and usually that's for one of 2 different reasons. I'll first talk about animal entrapment. We don't see a lot of animal entrapment in TRMs because the nettings tend to be heavier. They're not super, super thin like they are on temporary blankets. But just so you know, if you didn't know with turf reinforcement mats, many turf reinforcement mats can be soil filled. So that means instead of planting the seed and soil amendments down below the material and having it grow up through the TRM, in many instances, you can do a thin fill layer over the top of the TRM and have the vegetation grow down through. Oftentimes that meets some requirements of some more sensitive areas that need a turf reinforcement mat for performance, but they don't want to have the plastic exposed. Just something to keep in mind. And we don't need to go into all the details of that, but I think that's pretty important. Why does all of this matter? So we have a video, and this video is talks about the type. This is done at our ErosionLab, and this is an actual test. We have 2 big diesel-driven pumps. I said we can generate 80 cubic feet a second. Well, we get asked all the time is how long does this product last? This material was installed 25 years ago. And the video is showing this is TRM, Recyclex TRM, could withstand about 10 pounds of vegetated shear. And this video, as much water as you see flowing down there, that's not even quite 10 pounds of vegetated shear. And that video, that's about 8 pounds. So it can withstand even more. So that is the type of environment, a well-installed, as with any best management practice, a well and properly installed product that's well vegetated. That's the type of solution that you can get from a turf reinforcement mat. It can often replace other more expensive solutions that like hard armor. Does not mean that you wouldn't use hard armor. It does not mean you wouldn't use flexible concretes or turf or riprap in certain instances. They all have benefits, but we do find that there are many opportunities to do vegetated solutions and gather those benefits using a turf reinforcement mat. So it's just something I like to share. This video is an older video as well. This was back in 2012. This is our lightest product. It was designed to withstand 8 pounds of shear. The point of this is that, and the bottom of this channel, just so you know, before this event, that bottom section was concreted. So they did use concrete in the bottom of this channel. That's because it would always have some water. They were afraid they wouldn't get good vegetation establishment. So this happened about 2 years after install. And I'm not an engineer. Bill may be able to tell me, but I don't know how much shear stress that is, but I promise you it's more than 8 pounds. And that's what I get to before when I say it's tested to 8 pounds or so. but often that's not the whole story. So it would withstand these huge pieces of debris and these huge flows and still be in good condition. That's right after the flow when it receded. One of the more important things about this video is 2 days after the initial flood, this happened. So I'm fairly certain it's super saturated soils. There's no more. One of the great things about vegetated channels is they filter the runoff and they allow it to incorporate the water to incorporate. Well, it's not going to incorporate anymore. So the products are under much more stress in these conditions because there's nowhere for the water to go. They can withstand these sorts of forces, properly installed, properly spec'd. But this is what that channel looks like most of the time in Texas. So again, just another example of a best management practice that maybe you haven't considered that is most likely going to be used with other best management practices and solutions that Bill and his team can provide. Touching on just one more turf reinforcement mat. We have a other wide variety of turf reinforcement mats. I don't talk about it. You may hear the term biocomposite turf reinforcement mats versus fully synthetic. Curlex Enforcer was our first one of those. It's been around for many years. It's designed with our natural fibers in the middle and the permanent nets. We like to say long term, but permanent nets on the outside of the material, right? So you'll see specifications like this across the top, designed for 1/2 to 1 slopes, up to 10 pounds of vegetated shear and velocities of 17 feet per second. So that you'll see that type of data on our spec sheets, and other manufacturers use similar data, but a nice biocomposite. So that allows you to have the turf reinforcement mat characteristics of the netting that you need, but it also may give you a solution that does use some natural fibers and to minimize the use of plastics in instances where it's appropriate. So now I want to talk about Curlex fibers, the thing that most people know us for. Bill, are we doing okay on time?
Yep, I was just gonna let you know we're getting close to the halfway point on time, and I think you're right on track.
Okay, okay. Don't tell anybody that because they'll.
And it's okay if you take a drink too every now and then, water.
Well, I may do that. I may do that. So Curlex is what we're known for. Curlex at the beginning, that's what we came out with was the Curlex fibers. This may sound obvious, but some people don't know it. Curlex is naturally seed-free. It comes from trees, right? It has engineered curls and barbs, and people say, what on earth do you mean by engineered curls and barbs? What I mean is when we make these fibers, these are not a byproduct. We use a certain species of wood. We allow the wood to dry naturally in a certain condition. We have a certain machines that take the wood and make a fiber that is a certain width and a certain length, has those little curls and barbs. There's a lot of science going into making these fibers the way we want them, because if you cut them differently, they do not act the same when they're on the ground and when they get wet. I'll show you some other characteristics of them. And I just want you to know that they're not all Excelsior is not Curlex. Curlex is Excelsior, but not all Excelsior is Curlex, and it does matter. We want to create that greenhouse effect. We want to encourage vegetation. We want to conform to irregularities, and we want to protect the seedbed. But that's what they look like up close. Where do they come from? There you go. Well, not just one tree, but a whole lot of trees like that. So Great Lakes aspen are the trees we use. As I said, our facilities in Rice Lake, Wisconsin, Northwest Wisconsin. As you may have guessed, guess where a lot of Great Lakes aspen are? Up in that part of the country. Great Lakes aspen is generally considered to be one of the softest hardwoods. The other great thing about aspen is it's very sustainable. When an aspen is cut down or blown over, it sends out little runners and self-propagates. They have no pitch or resin. So you'll see other pines and things like that. Those naturally contain pitch or resins. So the aspen has these really great characteristics that make them a very clean, very consistent fiber and very sustainable. The largest living organism that I know of in North America is a stand of aspen trees in the Western US. They're all connected, right? It's this great living organism and self-propagating and really important at various life cycles of elk and other animals who use those or live in that environment. So just something important to note. We do not use any chemicals. There's no heat drying. They dry naturally outside for 12 to 18 months. The bark falls off of them basically about half the year. It's what's called sap peel. The bark basically falls off. The other times when it's still on there a little bit, we have a very basic mechanical with cleaning to remove the bark, but there's no chemicals used in the preparation of those fibers. So what is it about those fibers that makes them different than other fibers, other Excelsior and other products? This is not, there are applications for all kinds of fibers. I want to be really clear about that. Our company makes straw and coconut and straw coconut and synthetics and Excelsior. We make all of them. And my goal is to show you what some of those benefits are, some of them. And Curlex acts differently. When it gets wet, it expands and contracts. You'll see this in the next video. Because of that, there are many applications where people are starting to use our blankets as sediment control or partial sediment control because they get so rough. They have a Manning's N that's higher than most other erosion control blankets. So it can slow sediment. What that also does, though, that roughness, that growth, it grabs a hold of the soil and grabs a hold of each other to make it a very durable product. So it's a nice added benefit of using Curlex fibers. This is a simulation over some dozer tracks. Both of these products in this video are made by our company. Again, I'm not trying to say straw, you never use straw. We use straw in a lot of places. It can be a great solution. But I just want to show what happens when water hits them and how it expands to fill in the voids. I told Bill I have some music on these, but I turn it down. I could sing. Bill had better music at the beginning. I probably should have used some of Bill's music. But that is what they really do. I mean, you can grab a sample of our products and spray it with a mister, right? And they do expand. And that's exactly what they do. And they grab a hold of soil and they grab a hold of each other. I don't talk about this in this presentation, but I do want to talk about why that also matters in other applications. So, oops, I was trying to restart on me, wasn't it? Before we get into the products, oops, I'm going too fast, Bill. There we go. One of the things that you'll see in erosion control blankets that I just like to touch on, most erosion control blankets are made, temporary erosion control blankets are made at 1/2 pound a square yard. That is their mass per unit area. It's a very common number used in our industry. That's not by accident. We've learned over the years that's about the sweet spot. Protection without choking out vegetation, that's about where they are. Well, one of the really interesting things about Curlex is we make products that have up to 1.62 pounds per square yard. There's two reasons that you should find, or several reasons you should find that important. One, you say, well, how in the heck can you put more than 3 times the amount of mass and still get good vegetation? Well, it's that video you just saw. It expands, right? Vegetation can get through it. The other thing it does do that you might not have considered is, generally speaking in the world, coconut products, coconut blankets are believed to last longer. And that is an absolute fact. A coconut fiber will last longer than most other natural fibers. But when you can put more mass of something like Curlex, you can start to reach the functional longevity, the term that most people use, of a coconut blanket with a domestic product. So I just want that to keep in mind. Again, it is not to bash on coconut. Coconut has a lot of great applications, but it's interesting because of the way Curlex works, we can use more mass to give you better protection and a higher functional longevity, and we make it at different masses for different applications, just to note. So like most of our standard blankets are about 3/4 pound a square yard. We do make a 1/2 pound a square yard, about 1 pound a square yard, and goes up from there just as a reference. So this is Curlex Net Free. I mentioned this earlier, the first and one of 2 really netless products on the market today that I'm aware of. This is a great product for wildlife applications. If you have people that do a lot of plugging and planting, landscapers love this product because all you have to do is unroll it and you just spread the fibers apart and plug in your plant. And the only thing besides the fibers is some stitching the length of the blanket just to help it unroll. There's no net. So a nice thing. Again, you can see there for pretty shallow slopes, not a lot of shear stress, it gives you that type of data across the top. So a nice solution. The Curlex one, that's the original, right? That's what we came out with first. One net. It has a net and it's on top. I'll talk about netting options in a minute. So again, a little more durable, about the same mass per unit area, but it takes some steeper slopes and those kinds of things. But and you'll see in here, we make all of our Curlex blankets available with what we call quick grass, which is a green pigment, a safe green pigment. You'll see that in that middle picture and the left picture. They can be pigmented green just for aesthetics if someone is interested. Curlex 2, so 2 nets, right? And again, a little steeper slopes, a little more velocity, a little more shear stress, a little more durability. Again, we're just working our way up. I don't show all the versions of this, but we make one that's got Curlex 2 that has even more mass, so a higher functional longevity and so forth. Netting. So netting could be a whole conversation. In general, most manufacturers do similar things that we do. We have a polypropylene net with a UV degrader additive. We call it Quick Mo. It's designed to break down very fast from UV degradation. We also have polypropylenes with OXO, so oxygen degradation and UV degradation. That's either green or black. So that's on a lot of our temporary products. We have the more heavy duty polypropylenes that the stabilizers in them. So those are meant to be those are for like your turf reinforcement mats, right? They're designed to not break down. And then we have our biodegradable jute nets, which we'll talk about here next. And of course, the net-free option. And all of our products pretty much across the board are available with these nets. Obviously, the TRMs have a set net. Those don't change. One of the things we are proud of with Curlex products, we are able, when we use a plastic net, we are able to use less plastic because of those characteristics, those long fibers that intertwine. We are able to use plastic netting with bigger openings, 1 inch by 2 inch. And our other products are straw and coconut, like most manufacturers, use approximately a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch opening. So we can put less plastic on the ground because the fibers stick together on their own a little better. We don't have to hold them in place with a tighter netting. So that's a nice thing if you do need to use plastic. And as I mentioned, FiberNet, that's our brand of jute netting. You may have heard the term lino weave in the past. It just means how those little strands are woven together. And a lot of people assume that jute netting is weaker than plastic, and that's actually not true. There may be different degradation rates, but jute netting is actually quite strong, and it can be quite durable actually in many conditions. What's nice about this is A, it's natural, there's no plastics, and B, if you need to spread apart the fibers, you can, or if a critter gets in there, there's no fixed joints. Those things just pull apart, right? When they're on the ground, they're holding the net down, but they can move. Those joints are made to be woven, not fixed. Another nice thing, if we have any installers on or dealt with projects, one of the things that we like, that we think most people really like about all Curlex blankets is at the beginning of all of our rolls, we have a red painted line. And basically the installer can just stand behind it. There's an arrow on the package. They take that red line and they fold it back and they push the blanket away. What's also different is right before the end, 10 or so feet before the end, you'll see another red line. And the installer sees that like in picture 1. And in picture 2, they can basically walk to their side, grab it, and unfold it like a bed sheet. What this does, it may not sound like a big deal if you're doing 1 or 2 rolls, but over the course of a project, a lot of times the end of other types of products are thrown away. They're really hard to unroll. I call them a cigar end. They get kind of crunched together and they're a little harder to unroll. You don't have that problem with any of the Curlex blankets because of this characteristic. So it's a nice adder. And again, it adds to the, lowering the cost of a product if you can get more coverage out of it.
It does. And before you get into this project, it also, it means contractors might be more likely to ask for it. If it's not specified on the plan, they might still ask for it because they like it better with their history with it. So that makes a difference. Sometimes the engineer just says ECB or a certain class, but the contractor, they get to know which ones they like better.
For sure. And we don't get into this today, and Bill and his team could do it, but we also do on truckload quantities. Bill and his team know this with some of our products, our CLs and some of our, like our half pound, we can actually really optimize a trailer full and get more square footage on than most other products. And it varies. I won't bore you with all those details, but those things add up, that you, especially, when you're talking a full semi load or more, those things start to add up over time. We're all looking for ways, right? We're all paying more for labor. We're all trying to find labor, for goodness sakes, and at all levels. So all those things add up. Bill, do you want to talk about this before I jump into this quarry thing, since your team's so instrumental in it?
Just a little bit. We've really been talking about this a lot this year and last year because we've had such wild success. This picture is taken from near Interstate 25 in Colorado, so it'd be south of Denver, north of Colorado Springs. This is very near the U.S. Air Force Academy, and this was a rock quarry where they actually pulled out limestone that helped build a whole lot of the infrastructure in Colorado Springs area for decades.
Mhm.
And when this quarry was no longer active, the owner of the quarry moved on to other projects, and the city of Colorado Springs residents and area residents complained about the look. They gave it a dirty nickname called the Scar, which we're not supposed to say anymore. It had bad press for a long time. And the city of Colorado Springs and some environmental people in the area said, we got to do better. We have to make it look better because it's the entrance to Colorado Springs coming down from Denver from the north. But they also wanted it to be better for wildlife and recreation. So the owners employed some people to try to improve it and get vegetation to grow. Didn't have much luck. So they came back again and created a second project with lessons learned. And we were blessed to be a part of that with Stantec and several other people to put down a hybrid of a bunch of different solutions. So we've even had other manufacturers talk about this project. But it's so popular, so well known, you can get into it and then you can tell the end of the story, or as Paul
Sure.
Harvey says, the rest of the story.
That's the
But
story.
I'll jump back in at the end again and just tell them about some awards we got. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, for sure. And yeah, you got to be a certain age to know Paul Harvey. So we'll see how many people are that a certain age, right? I know I'm getting older, Bill. I said something to our interns this summer, and I said something about that, and they looked at me like I was from another planet. I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm old."
Yeah,
Um,
it happens to me all the time.
for sure, for sure. All right, let's see if we can. So, Bill already touched on this. Located near Rocky Mountains, or in the Rocky Mountains near Colorado Springs. It began in 1903, closed after about 115 years. I think if you look at this picture, Air Force Academy is to the right a few miles, and Colorado Springs is to the left a few miles.
Correct.
Um, but yes, a huge, huge thing. The stat I saw was half the limestone to build the city and half the limestone and concrete to construct the Air Force Academy. It's a massive, massive facility. Um, so in the scope, these are scopes that aren't probably that foreign to any project you guys have worked on. Revegetating, stabilizing, that's the top priority, right? But how do they do it? There's 150 acres and really steep slopes. I mean, I don't know if any of you ever worked on a 2-to-1 slope that was 300 feet long, but I promise you, when you walk up about half of one of those, unless you are like one of my friends who just loves that stuff, you're tired. It is unbelievably steep. And not only after reshaping, I mean, they're in an environment where it seems to be feast or famine. It's drought, or it's pouring down rain, or it's drought, or it's snow. It's really crazy out there, and a lot of really highly erodible soils. So they did have to combine several best management practices, to provide a solution. Some of the original attempts, I think, used straw blankets. Again, I'm not bashing on straw. It just wasn't made for this sort of environment. It just was not made for this severe of a project. It's great for a lot of projects. It wasn't the right solution here. So now they did a lot of other things, as Bill mentioned. Other manufacturers came out. I know there was topsoil considerations. There's a soil amendments used. I think, if I recall, they spent quite a bit of time getting down to the right seed mixes, right? So as we all know, on any project, but especially one like this, you got to have a good seed person. And if your seed person knows, you got to have something that pops pretty quick in the environment you're in, but you've also got to have things that are going to deep root as quickly as you can. And you got to have a blanket then, in this example, and their BMP, your best management practice, in a blanket that's going to hold up for more than a few months, right? Because not all of it's probably going to be established by the first big weather change. So that's a really big deal. So this is one of the slopes. We drove up on one of those roads, and I like to say that the gentleman driving the truck, I'm glad everybody trusted him, because he was doing the 17-point turn to turn around on the road. And as I was looking down the side, I told him I'd walk, but it's very steep. So there's just some before pictures, some drone pictures. We've got a video at the end what we'll show you. I think, Bill, jump in if I'm wrong. The top slope there, so the very, very top slope has been shaped. The next slope down, they were doing topsoil. Then the third slope down, where you see the lighter color on the right, that is the Curlex 2 fiber nets. And to the left, that had been sprayed with a soil amendment and the seed, correct?
Yeah, and I want people to see how tiny the people are down there on the
Yes.
slope on the Curlex with a
Yeah,
truck up top.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see my cursor. That's a dot. That's a
Yeah,
track
we
pit.
can. That's massive.
Right, right. So yes, we pale in comparison. So anyway, so that was what they were up against. Um, some after photos, right? These were fairly recent, Bill, in the last month or so, I believe, correct?
This summer. Yep.
Yeah, and the video you'll see here in a minute, has got some from when it first started germinating, but not from this year. Bill and a lot of his team and partners out there. We weren't at this particular party.
I missed this one too. Craig and I weren't blessed to be there. Here we're talking about it, but we weren't at the
Right,
party. This is
I know.
Colorado Springs and the environmental folks and the owners all getting together to celebrate the success they're having, and they're changing the story and the narrative out there for the public opinion.
It really does. And one of the things that, our company always looks for good partners, like Bill and his company, and you that are on this call. If you've got a great story to tell, we do little case study projects. We like in those videos, those case studies, we like to promote you. We like to promote you as the person or company or companies that we're looking for the right solution to do things the right way. If you've ever got ideas like that, please reach out to Bill or I. We love those opportunities. And it does kind of, as I said, it's kind of rising tide lifts all the boats. There are the right ways to do it. And what the last thing I'll say about this before we get into the video is they wanted to do all of this with no plastic. If you wanted plastic netting, nobody would have said a word. They're like, whatever. And if you would have wanted something to last 6 months, maybe 12 months, not a problem. When you start getting the types of water flows, the day when we were out there before the germination, they had just had a huge rain event. Like, it was basically no rain, no rain. I don't know how big that rain event was, Bill. If you know the one I'm talking about, it was massive. They had one set of rills and one little spot. The contractors you'll see how they did some great installation because of those fibers they held down. And by the way, they were all natural. It was Excelsior wood, cotton thread, and two jute nets, and met all those requirements. And so I don't think a lot of other products could have done that. So we're really proud of that.
On that slide, before you click off of it, the guy from the second from the right is our salesperson for Bowman Construction Supply, Ryan Anderson. He's wildly successful, but pretty shy, actually. He didn't want to join us, and he didn't want to do a video interview, but he worked closely with the contractor, Josh from HydroTurf, subcontractor. And Josh from HydroTurf is the one who personally owned that whole project, and he said they literally had 4 different climates. They had 4 different weather areas or areas of the project where they would monitor weather. They might get shut down at the highest elevation, but they would still be going great on the first. So of the 4 different areas, like you said, the weather was unpredictable, the conditions were wildly extreme. So everybody on this who in our audience who thinks, yeah, but have you done it in my part of the country, or have you done it in our 4 seasons? The answer is yes. We've had success in all 4 seasons, even on one site within a matter of a few weeks. So it was really an awesome challenge. That team, they had quite a celebration that, again, we weren't a part of. But you have to tell the good news. Everybody wants to hear good news, but you have to share the successes. Thanks for saying that, Craig.
For sure. So, um, did I lose one?
It'll come. I think we have to click on it. You might have to click on the arrow. That video's in there. I have to back up. There you go.
Yeah. So this, I've talked about this at the beginning, so I sort of feel like there's not a whole lot to cover here. But as I mentioned, you're naturally seed free. We talked about the expansion contraction. Bill and I got ahead of ourselves there, trying to change the order of our presentation. But all of those things that we've already talked about really gave the performance needed to meet that. So this is a video that we shot not too long after the project was installed.
Craig, are you seeing it now? I have myself muted. This going on my side. Yeah, you're muted too, if you want to narrate it.
Yeah. So yeah, I just I'd close it there for a minute. Yeah. So I know we have a little bit of a glitch here, a little bit of time delay. These were just Bill and his team and some others helped us get some great photos. You just see the scope of it. I mean, these are really steep, really long slopes. I know we've talked about this at length already, but grading them, reshaping them, putting them into these sort of, let's say, how to eat a, what's that? How to eat a 500-pound steak.
Elephant.
elephant, yeah,
Yeah, whatever.
one bite at a time. That's really, and that's the product they used. So this is a drone. This is from that other picture we showed you before, but putting your topsoil up there to the left, putting this down. There were rock outcrops there just to the left of those green rolls. That was a rock outcrop. There was nothing they could do about it. This picture shows installation. They trenched the top. We could talk for a long time about proper installation. The thing I will tell you about any erosion control blanket ever is if you're putting it on a slope and you can't go more than 3 feet over the crest, you got to trench it. You have to. And it's not hard, and it changes all the world. The other great thing about Curlex blankets, in that picture, you might notice they're abutted. They are not overlapped. Curlex, because of the way those fibers act, you do not have to overlap seams on slopes. On channels, you do. So this is some initial germination. So they were really happy with it. We've got some pictures of from a way long ways away of these pronghorns walking through it. It's very grainy, but they were happy because they saw wildlife out there on the project.
And Stantec just did a video on LinkedIn where they talked about, and it's actually on YouTube. They talked about the insects and the smaller animals that are all returning to that slope now. They just did it recently, so they're thrilled.
Yeah, it's the whole thing, right? It's the whole thing. How are we doing on time, Bill?
We're right at 121. We got 9 minutes left.
Okay, be really quick here. I did want to just touch on sediment control products. Obviously, this isn't what we want. We don't want trash and soil. We make sediment logs. You may have seen other cylindrical products on the market, straw wattles, all the other different kinds of socks and logs. The big thing I want to point out about a sediment log is while it is often considered in some of the same categories, they're designed to work different. Our logs are designed to allow water to flow through the matrix at more than 35 gallons per minute. The idea here is we want to dam it less. We actually want the water to flow through, we want to capture sediment on the inside. What we see in the field is it lowers hydrostatic pressure, less blowouts. They can have a poly wrap or a natural wrap, just something else to consider. There are many applications. The point of this picture is this. If you get too much ponding or too much sediment buildup behind a sediment control device, you obviously don't have vegetation there. What we see in the field is these sediment logs allow that water, that sediment-laden water to flow through. Again, less blowouts, less piling up of sediment. And it's just something to consider. If you're not sure whether you need a damming device or a filtering device, I'm sure Bill and his team can offer both. And you might just try how they work in different applications. I'm going to try this over here. Does this work better in this environment or in this application? And that's okay. High-vis Excelsior logs, we got calls about, hey, we need something more durable. We need something we can move around. So we took the Curlex fibers. We used a more permanent, durable shell. They come in like 5, 10, and 17-foot lengths. Lots of different applications, but sometimes we see areas where they have hard surfaces. They want to mark off certain areas. They want to stack them. We had a customer stack 3 of these up and zip tie them together, or put stakes on the outside so they have a nice heavy mass on the ground. One of the ways we use them at the ErosionLab, it's a huge facility. We host big events out there. We actually use them for traffic control. So if you've got outdoor events where they need to do traffic control and have a plan for any rain and sediment, these might be a nice solution for you. So just something to keep in mind.
That's a good creative idea, and the bright orange color looks perfect for fall, for October, for all your corn mazes.
we should put pumpkins on them.
There you go.
I show this video just to show the difference between damming and filtering. So again, when you pour water over this wattle, it goes around the outside, right? It's meant to dam the water. That's exactly what it's designed to do. It is neither good nor bad. It is just how they work. But when you pour water over the sediment log, I want you to watch how the water goes through it. Because we're slowing down the water, we're capturing contaminants, we're reducing velocity, and we're filtering it. It's another way to skin the cat. You're going to see pros and cons. I don't know if you'll see cons to any of them, but you might find that some work better in certain applications. We're seeing them being used in perimeter control, inlet protection, grate protection, all kinds of different things made with the same fibers. Other cool thing about Great Lakes aspen is it is listed or recognized by the EPA as a sorbent, so it will remove hydrocarbons from the water. So a nice added benefit. Lots of different applications, as I've said. And I'm going to skip past this, Bill, because I know we're running on time. But again, sometimes it's over bare soil, sometimes it's in finished areas, sometimes it's perimeter control. Lots of the applications that you could think of. I do also want to touch base on Curlex blocks. So imagine about a dimension of a bale of hay or a bale of straw, but longer. Standard come in a cotton form. These are originally built as an American-made alternative to coir logs. People are looking for dense, fairly dense, but heavy products. Well, these actually still flow very well. Not quite as much as a sediment log, but they still flow and filter really, really well. What we found is they make these great tools for other things. Dewatering stations, stream bank restorations. This is an example. Now, I'm talking about streams, ponds, and lakes that have a low fetch, low wave action. I'm not telling you to replace hard armor or riprap. That's not what I'm telling you to do. But if you have areas that are smaller, lower, or it could be a second tier, you can sprig in willows, different things like that. They do a really nice job. And basically, all you're doing is setting these about 2/3 in the water, sitting them on a shelf, anchoring them down with wood stakes and a cotton or a sisal rope. You allow Mother Nature to take back over, the roots to reestablish, and then you don't have to remove anything. Just an example of how those can be used. I also like to talk about filter. We did some filtering tests at the ErosionLab with fly ash. If you've ever messed with fly ash, it is nasty stuff. That is really someone's hand on the other side of that block station. That with no chemicals, we ran that fly ash slurry down the channel across a Curlex blanket and through a 3-block station and had about a 95% reduction in total suspended solids. So some nice things there. They also make really good dewatering stations. We have clients that will sometimes use hay bales and different things. This is something we built at the ErosionLab to replicate one of our customers. They wanted it in a more permanent netting, so that's why they're in this black heavy netting. Basically, they installed one row, put a non-woven, put another row on top, put a third row on the outside. We used T-post to hold it in. It's probably hard to see, but on the bottom right, there's a little black snout sticking out there with some white thread. That's a dewatering bag. They pump the sediment-laden water into a dewatering bag. Many of you have probably seen that application. That inside fills up like a swimming pool, and the sediment-laden water has to percolate through those blocks and then out through the other blocks. A really nice way to do filtering, not have to use any chemicals. It may or may not reach your final clarity, right? You have to have that tested, but a nice way to do it with a pretty low cost setup. And that's it.
And to repeat what you said, American made with American made fibers. I think that matters a lot. Now, a lot of people are looking for the Buy American.
Yes, we did talk about BABA. So I think everything or nearly everything we make will be BABA compliant. I don't know of one that doesn't, but just that does come into play for sure.
Well, and I unmuted myself because I took over controls here for the end. But somebody asked you, what is and this is a long time guest of ours, Chuck Dreesen, who liked the music at the beginning, by the way.
Okay.
Chuck asked, what is the life of the aspen before it becomes ineffective and then part of the soil?
Oh, it's a good question. It's got a really hard answer. It really depends on the environment, obviously. I would say our lightest mass products are generally designed to be functional for 12 months or so, and we go all the way up to over 3 years. So it depends on mass. So the half pound a square yard, you're probably closer to a year. When you get up above a pound, pound and a half up in there, we have products that have been used to instead of coconut. And again, I'm not bashing on it, but people have called us and said, I need this functional longevity because we're doing natives or whatever, slow growth, and they get protection for up to 3 years or a little more.
Good answer. And I went ahead and typed in the answer in writing, so that'll be captured when we do this on Zoom. And folks, just so you know, as I get to this next one, we're doing perfect on time. Well done, Craig. You deserve your drink of Diet Coke. Just a reminder, folks, that we capture all the questions here, and we'll have those in writing for all attendees. When you get your PDH survey, you'll get a survey first from Mackenzie in our office. Madeline's still out on maternity leave with a blessing. Mackenzie will make sure we all get the survey to every attendee, and you'll confirm your name for the PDH certificate. You'll also have a chance to ask another question that wasn't asked today during the webinar, and then you'll get a chance to share a project with us that you'd like Craig and his team or our team to help you with. And we'll document all that. Everybody will get the written Q&A, and you'll also get a link to the YouTube channel where we host the video of this. You can share with your coworkers. They can then watch the YouTube video later and contact me for a PDH certificate. Craig's contact information will be saved and shared on that. You can use your QR code right now. You may have to, there's my 1-minute warning with the final countdown. There's a QR code on the screen that you can register for next month's Technical Talks webinar with Fleximat. Todd Noble will be joining me. We're going to try to do that in person together at the ASP Kansas City office. But I want to warn everybody, look at the date. Instead of the first Wednesday of the month, which we usually do, it's going to be the second Wednesday of the month because Todd and I will both be at conferences. So Wednesday, November 12th is our next webinar. Use the QR code there to register. And on the 5th, I'm going to be at IECA Mountain States in Denver, Colorado. I think Todd's going to be at a waste management conference in Nebraska, but we'll be back together Wednesday the 12th. Here's our contact information. You can find us on the website. I'm going to end with the very last slide being Craig's slide with his contact information. He was kind enough to leave out some things that they still have to offer, and you should go check his website for that. There's his email address and his cell phone. We all know how to use the internet to find information. Feel free to contact Craig and his team or us. We share information together. Craig, any parting words of wisdom? That was awesome.
I just want to say thanks. If you're on this call, you're dealing with a top-notch group. I've known these guys for a really long time, guys and gals. A wonderful group, do things the right way, and that is not a given. You should know that you're dealing with the right people. I mean that sincerely. It's a really good group. They are knowledgeable. They don't know if they don't know an answer, they'll go find it out. They're not going to tell you they do know something. I really encourage you to watch Fleximat. We work with Fleximat a lot. Our products are used often together. Another terrific product. We actually work together on some things where that's a great example of a best management practice. They do things we can't do, but there's a point where maybe they don't need that product and they need a transition. It's a perfect example, a really high-class organization. So I encourage you to take some time to watch that.
Thank you. Well done. Thanks, Craig. Good job today. Let's go rest your voice the rest of the day. Take care.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.